Society tells us that the person on the left is a high achiever, and the person on the right is losing control. But psychological research suggests the opposite might be true. In fact, if your desk looks like a disaster zone, it might actually be a sign that your brain is operating at a higher cognitive level than the person who spent all morning color-coding their pens. Today's video is for you. We're diving deep into the psychology of people who don't love order. And trust me, it's more fascinating than you might think. We're going to challenge some assumptions and maybe even make you feel a little better about that pile of clothes. The disorderly stereotype and initial thoughts. For years, a messy space has been associated with everything from laziness to a lack of discipline. We're bombarded with images of pristine homes and organized workspaces as the ideal. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's a different psychological wiring at play? Think about it. Our brains are constantly processing information. For some, a highly structured environment helps reduce cognitive load. For others, a less rigid environment might actually facilitate a different kind of mental process. Cognitive benefits and creativity. One of the most compelling arguments for embracing a bit of mess comes from the world of creativity. A study from the University of Minnesota found that participants in a messy room generated significantly more creative and interesting ideas than those in a tidy room. Why might this be? Well, a messy environment can signal freedom from constraints. It can encourage a non-linear thinking process, allowing your mind to wander, make unexpected connections, and stumble upon novel solutions. It's like your brain is literally mapping its surroundings onto its internal thought process, a bit of external chaos leading to internal innovation. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas come when you're not trying to be super organized? Let me know in the comments below. Flexibility, prioritization, and big picture thinking. Beyond creativity, a less rigid approach to order can also indicate other psychological traits. People who don't meticulously organize every detail often demonstrate a higher degree of flexibility. They're less bothered by sudden changes and can adapt more easily to new situations. This also ties into prioritization. For some, spending hours perfectly organizing files or color-coding their bookshelf might feel like a distraction from what they consider more important, higher-level tasks. They might be wired to focus on the big picture, letting smaller details fall into place, or simply not assigning them the same level of importance. It's not necessarily a lack of care, but a different allocation of mental energy. The rebel archetype and challenging norms. There's also a fascinating aspect related to personality and challenging norms. For some, a lack of extreme order might be a subtle form of rebellion against societal expectations. In a world that constantly pushes for perfection and conformity, a little bit of mess can be an expression of individuality and a refusal to be boxed in. It's about owning your space and your process rather than conforming to an external ideal. It's not about being defiant for the sake of it, but about an intrinsic preference for autonomy. Self-acceptance and when to seek balance. So, if you're someone who thrives in a less than pristine environment, pat yourself on the back. You might be tapping into a unique wellspring of creativity, flexibility, and individuality. It's about understanding and leveraging your natural psychological leanings. Of course, there's a spectrum. Extreme disorganization can certainly lead to stress and missed opportunities. The goal isn't to justify chaos, but to understand the psychology behind different approaches to order. It's about finding a balance that works for you. If your mess is causing genuine distress or hindering your productivity, then it's worth exploring strategies to introduce a little more structure. But for many, a comfortable level of disarray is perfectly healthy and even beneficial. Finally, what's your take? Are you a tidy titan or a creative chaotic? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear how your level of order influences your work, your creativity, and your overall well-being. If you enjoyed this dive into the psychology of disorder, please hit that like button, subscribe for more fascinating insights, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video.